Welcome back to U.S. Command Instant. What you are about to hear represents the single most consequential weapons transfer in the history of the modern Middle East. And the Western intelligence community missed it until it was already done. 500 Hwasong-18 intercontinental ballistic missiles, the most advanced solid-fuel ICBM that North Korea has ever produced. A weapon system that during its test launches in 2023 demonstrated a range capability exceeding 15,000 kilometers, sufficient to reach not just Israel, not just American bases across the Middle East, but the continental United States itself. 500 of them transferred in a covert logistics operation of breathtaking scale and audacity, now sitting in hardened underground facilities across Iranian territory, fueled, targeted, and ready. Let that number settle for a moment. 500. The United States currently deploys approximately 400 Minuteman III ICBMs in its entire land-based nuclear deterrence force. The number that Iran has just received from Pyongyang exceeds America's entire ground-based strategic nuclear delivery inventory. And unlike the Minuteman III, a system whose fixed silo locations have been known, mapped, and targeted by Russian and Chinese war planners for decades, these Hwasong-18 platforms are road mobile. They move, they hide. They can be positioned and repositioned across Iran's vast national territory in ways that make preemptive targeting effectively impossible without real-time intelligence of a quality that no satellite constellation currently provides. Israel woke up this morning in a fundamentally different strategic reality than the one it went to sleep in. The qualitative military edge that Washington has guaranteed and underwritten for half a century. The assurance that Israel will always possess weapons, systems, and delivery capabilities superior to any combination of regional adversaries has just been obliterated by a single transfer agreement between two sanctioned, isolated nations that the Western world spent decades trying to keep apart. The question that every defense ministry, from Tel Aviv to Washington to Riyadh, is now asking in emergency sessions is not whether this transfer happened. The question being asked with barely concealed panic is, what happens next? What does Israel do when it faces an adversary armed with 500 ICBMs capable of carrying nuclear payloads? What does Washington do when the deterrence framework it has maintained across the region for 50 years is suddenly facing a weapons inventory that changes every calculation simultaneously? The transfer, how North Korea armed Iran with the world's most dangerous ICBM. To understand how this transfer was executed without triggering a Western interdiction response, you need to understand two things simultaneously: the genuine limitations of Western intelligence collection against deeply compartmentalized operations between sanctioned states, and the extraordinary lengths to which both Pyongyang and Tehran went to ensure this operation remained invisible. The logistical architecture exploited three simultaneous vulnerabilities. The first was geographic. The primary transfer route ran overland through Chinese territory into Central Asia, and then through a combination of Iranian-controlled corridors and Russian transit permission. This route avoided maritime choke points where American naval interdiction assets are positioned. It ran through the precise geographic seam between American intelligence collection priorities. The second vulnerability was timing. The transfer was executed in multiple phases across a 14-month window with individual shipments sized below the threshold that would trigger automatic escalation responses. The third vulnerability was deception. North Korean and Iranian technical teams deliberately maintained normal activity patterns at known missile production facilities throughout the transfer period. Satellite imagery showed no unusual activity. The Hwasong-18 propulsion system is where the story begins. Previous North Korean systems used liquid fuel, which required an hours-long fueling sequence observable by satellites. The Hwasong-18 eliminates this vulnerability entirely with a three-stage solid fuel propulsion system. The guidance system represents a technical leap. It uses an inertial navigation system updated by stellar navigation. It navigates by the stars. This means it is entirely independent of GPS and cannot be jammed or spoofed by electronic warfare assets. Its survivability is further enhanced by a maneuvering reentry vehicle. Executing evasive maneuvers at hypersonic velocity in the terminal phase, it makes intercept solutions for systems like THAAD and Arrow 3 extremely difficult. Whether these missiles carry nuclear or conventional payloads, the ambiguity itself constitutes a massive deterrence effect. Any military planner must treat every launch as a potential nuclear strike and respond accordingly. A road-mobile launcher can receive a launch order, erect its missile, and execute a launch within minutes. Preemptive strike is no longer a viable option against a force of 500 mobile ICBMs. The Emergency National Security Council session in Washington lasted 9 hours. What emerged was the recognition that there is no clean plan. Every available option carries consequences so severe that the decision to act requires accepting catastrophe. Option 1, military strike. But a strike campaign against 500 road mobile launchers is not a precision operation. It is a war that could close the Strait of Hormuz, costing the global economy trillions in months. The estimated cost in American military casualties and Israeli civilian lives runs into numbers that no government can publicly acknowledge. The global financial markets would face a collapse of unprecedented scale. In the innermost sanctums of Israeli planning, the Samson option is being reconsidered. The implicit guarantee that no adversary could eliminate Israel without facing nuclear annihilation is now being tested by Iran's new deterrence capability. Mutual assured destruction does not deter a party that has already decided the cost of confrontation is acceptable. Israel's second strike capability, its nuclear submarine force, has been dispersed to patrol positions. These measures represent maximum operational readiness. They do not represent a solution. They represent the posture of a state that understands it is facing an existential strategic challenge and has no immediate answer. The post-Cold War nuclear order rested on a specific framework managed by the US and Russia. Russia is observing these developments with a satisfaction it does not bother to conceal, as American strategic attention is consumed by the Middle East. China's reading of events is more complex. Beijing is watching the American response as a calibration exercise for its own Taiwan calculations. Chinese analysts are drawing conclusions right now that will shape decision-making for years. The Gulf states are experiencing a strategic earthquake. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are confronting the evidence that American guarantees have limits, intensifying the move toward regional diplomatic accommodation with Iran. The Iran-North Korea ICBM transfer represents the most consequential breach of the non-proliferation framework. Every state weighing the cost of pursuing advanced weapons is now updating its assessment. Defiance can be converted into strategic advantage. The global non-proliferation framework has absorbed a blow from which it will not recover in its current form. We are in a transition period between the collapse of the old order and the construction of the new one, historically the most dangerous moment. The world changed last night, 500 ICBMs pointing outward at a world that underestimated the determination of a civilization that has never accepted subjugation. The old Middle East is gone. What replaces it starts now. What is your assessment? Does Washington find a path that avoids catastrophe? Leave your analysis in the comments. Subscribe to US Command Instant for analysis that cuts through the noise. Stay sharp, stay ahead.